We're going to start out in one of the best sights of all, the beautiful town of Arles in the heart of Provence. They have a Roman amphitheater that's about 2,000 years old and can hold 20,000 people. It's still in use today. Arles was founded by the ancient Romans and was a very important city for them. And you see it's being renovated. It's all cleaned off now. They're really taking good care of that 2,000-year-old structure. Arles was an important Roman town founded by Julius Caesar about 2,000 years ago. And now it's one of the most charming places in all of Europe to visit. World famous as a beauty spot, and for a while it was the home of Vincent van Gogh when he was at his final and most productive period. There's a lot of these narrow streets in Arles. There's a small pedestrian zone. There's the various squares and the cafes around it, of course, and historic sites. And we'll be showing you those highlights coming up right now as we take a walk through Arles. The old town of Arles is comfortably small. It's about a square mile, so it's very easy to see the whole thing on foot. And you can easily spend 2 or 3 days here and enjoy the different museums, historic sites, the cafes around the squares, and the restaurants, of course. This is the old city hall built in 1675 to plans by the famous architect Hardouin Mansart. The Église Saint-Trophime, the Church of Saint-Trophime next to it, has a fantastic Byzantine series of sculptures on the facade, recently restored to all their pristine beauty, and a Byzantine interior, older than the Gothic. Quite a church. And just around the corner is the cloister of the church. Be sure to find it. It's a little bit tucked away, but beautiful. We're in the cloister in Arles, and it's really quite a lovely cloister. There's an interesting mix of architectural styles. We have the Gothic on this side. You can see the pointed arches, and the other half of the cloister is actually earlier with the Romanesque barrel vaulting. So it took about 300 years to construct this one cloister. It's a very calm and peaceful place. Beautiful columns with different capitals to the columns, a lot of detail, and there are some lovely statues on the corner columns in the cloister. It's like an open-air museum with architecture and sculpture that spans a 300-year period. There is a major history museum in Arles that is really worth walking to. It takes about 15 or 20 minutes to walk here from the center of town, and it displays a lot of the treasures from the ancient Roman period of Arles. Here's the sarcophagi, or the tombs, of the Romans and some early Christians. The stone coffins are richly decorated with sculpture depicting daily life, and there's a large collection of mosaic floors and a large 3D model of Arles in the time of ancient Rome, showing how sophisticated the buildings were. It was a major town, and they have got a lot of the original glassworks, the tools, the gold jewelry, the statues, all on display here at the Archaeological Museum, and some earlier pieces that date back to the Stone Age. We have statues of the various emperors. Here's the theater, and the theater as we see it today is really a reconstruction. Only the columns in the foreground are original. The amphitheater is quite original and still standing as it was in the time of Vespasian, who also built the great Colosseum in Rome. The Forum was the center of social life in ancient Arles, and miraculously, a large part of it is still preserved underground. These barrel-vaulted arcades used to be street level, but now they are slightly underground and beautifully preserved for you to walk through today as the Cryptoporticos Museum of Arles. And above ground, the streets are bustling. It's late in the afternoon. As we come out, we notice there's been a slight rainfall that stopped but created those ideal conditions of clean streets and fresh air and reflected lights. You'll see lots of friendly folks out here in the streets of Arles in the evening. It's a great time to be out for a stroll. This puppy was just frolicking and happy to be out in the streets, walking around with his patient master. Now we're in the south of France, and they do observe the siesta. So many of the shops are closed at 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. and then they reopen until about 8 p.m. in the evening. The weather's nice. The lights are on. The daylight is still lingering in the twilight sky beyond. It's just a perfect time for the evening stroll. We photographed this program during the month of November, which, as it turns out, is a great time to visit the south of France. The weather was cool but not cold, and the towns and sites were never crowded, but everything was open so you can fit in like a local. We stayed at the Hotel Calendal right in the center of town.
Hello, my name is Pascal Galvez, and I am the assistant manager of the Calendal Hotel in Arles, which is so exclusive in Arles, in the heart of Provence, which in fact has got the charm of a private house as well as a normal hotel. So it's a very, very nice hotel due to its situation, which is right in the middle of the interesting part of Arles and the Provence. We are not far away from the small places as well, like Saint-Rémy de Provence, which is famous for his market, and the Beau de Provence as well.
We're going to bring you on a day trip to these two charming villages in just 1 minute. But first, let's have a quiet, peaceful stroll in the village atmosphere of Arles in the morning, when life is just getting started. It's about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. A couple of the cafes are open, a corner shop is open, but nothing much else is happening. There's a few people on their way to work. The town square is fairly quiet at this hour. There's some nice little hotels located around the square in this part of town. And then you can just enjoy the peace and quiet without anybody else in the way as the town comes to life. Again, being here in November is extra peaceful. When you come in the summertime, naturally there'll be a lot of tourists in the streets any time of day. But if you're up at 7:30, 8 in the morning, any time of the year, you're going to have a nice, quiet, peaceful way to start your day. Take a little stroll before breakfast, and then head back over to your hotel and get some coffee and a nice buffet breakfast. Well, now we're leaving Arles and heading over to Saint-Rémy, and then on to Le Beau.